There appears to be a real change in strategy from some members of corporate America when it comes to doing business with the Trump administration and all of those lobbyists on K Street. Some CEOs have decided they're going to operate on their own rather than, look to K Street. Amazon's Jeff Bezos is now considering a legal challenge against President Trump's executive order on extreme vetting, reaching out to lawmakers, they say, to explore legislative options. You go, Jeff. And Ford CEO Mark Fields now says the immigration executive order goes against their corporate values. Corporate values. Check, Mark, check. Let's not forget, Bezos met with Trump and other Silicon Valley executives in December. Just a month after that meeting, Amazon agreed to create more than 100,000 new jobs in the United States. And then it was Fields who, after meeting with President Trump, decided to cancel plans for a $1.6 billion plant in Mexico and instead invest in Michigan and its plant there and hire more Americans. It used to be so friendly. Joining me now, attorney, political analyst, Gayle Trotter, Mike Gallagher, host of the Mike Gallagher radio show on the Salem Radio Network. Welcome to you both. Let me turn, Gayle, to you. This is a real departure. These CEOs are standing up, and unfortunately, they are appealing to President Trump to leave the borders open, leave their source of cheap labor accessible, and let them please have more cheap labor they can just bring into the country and exploit.
That's right, and I think they're surprised that President Trump hasn't done what so many other politicians have done once they ascended into the Oval Office and pivot to the lobbyists and to the swamp creatures in D.C. and to the big corporate interests that so long have tried to play footsie with elected leaders in Washington, D.C. And President Trump is not having any of that. He is going to fulfill the promises that he made to his supporters and to the American people on the major issues that he campaigned on, including immigration. And we see that the actions from this past weekend show that he's going to be able to take the heat.
Mike?
The crazier the reactions from these folks, the more normal the president's actions seem. In other words, I mean, they're screaming and they're howling, and these businesses...
Schumer with his fake bawling before the microphones.
The tears, and of course a president who comes right back and says, I want to meet his acting coach because I don't know this guy. And now you got Amy Schumer saying, oh, my uncle doesn't know how to act. The crazier they get, the more normalized all of this is appearing to the American public. Look, Lou, President Obama said something that is unforgettable early on. He said, elections have consequences. I won. Get over it. The election is over. So now the shoe's on the other foot, and these guys don't know how to handle it.
I want to ask you both. I mean, there was some considerable gnashing of teeth and more than a little wailing about the left and the Dems conspiring to delegitimize Donald Trump's presidency. It appears that they're going far beyond that. They're trying to subvert the government itself. They're trying to break the government down, deny the basic traditions of giving a president his cabinet. Look at what happened with all of the protests about this executive order. This, in large measure, if there was any confusion, as some have contended, around that order, perhaps it's also because the departments just haven't been staffed because they are holding up so many of the president's appointees. What do you think, Gayle?
That's right. And the left-wing media is feeding into this narrative. They're trying to stoke this idea that there's internal disarray in the Trump administration, and they're trying to put out false information on policies like the immigration pause, which they have hashtag Muslim ban, and it's not about Muslims, and it's not a ban, it's a pause. And so they're really trying to stoke up opposition, and they have advocates, they have allies in the Senate.
Evil George is out hiring protesters and demonstrators, Mike.
Oh,
there's
really
a stir.
You think it's just a coincidence that all those thousands of protesters showed up at airports in such a short period of time? Wow, isn't that remarkable? Come on, there's so much fake news going on right now, and she's so right about having to discern truth from fiction. There's a lot of fiction. Look at what Sean Spicer's going through every day. He's going in there, he has to suit up, put on his armor and deal with that guy that looked like a hobo from the New York Times.
I want to show everybody what Spicer's putting up with. And I said after he was, I think, a day on the job, after his first official news conference, Spicer is doing a hell of a job. I mean, an amazing job. The press secretary under President Trump has to not only be the press secretary, he has to tutor the uninformed and the ignorant. I mean, it's astonishing, as well as field the hostility. I want you to see, if we can roll this video now, of 2 or 3 questions and the way the left comes at it. I'd like you to also give particular notice not only to the nastiness of these folks, but also the way they're dressed. I mean, they are in the White House addressing the spokesman for the President of the United States, and they look like they're about to put together some sort of secret meeting amongst left-wing. Oh, wait a minute, they are left-wing. If we can, let's see these questions and answers by Spicer.
It is extreme
The president
vetting.
himself called it bad.
I understand.
Is he confused, or are you confused?
No, I'm not confused. I think that the words that are being used to describe it are derived from what the media is calling this. They're the Department of Justice, and if you have a legally executed order, and the Attorney General says, I'm not going to execute it, that clearly is a betrayal of what she's supposed to. I'm not going to define the word, Glenn.
Is the president willing to kill and target American citizens, even minors, just because their family members are terrorists?
No American citizen will ever be targeted.
Spicer may be up for sainthood if he persists and is patient, and I mean, it's a remarkable performance. Gayle, your reaction to those folks, and who the hell do they think they are?
Right, and when President Obama was putting American citizens on drone lists so that they could be evaporated, we didn't see protests in airports and marches on Washington. So it seems like the mainstream leftist media has decided to have no holds barred, just like the New York Times said right before the election, to oppose President Trump and his administration.
They ought to move these daily press briefings to prime time. Let the world see what the media is doing to this administration. Become aware of what Sean Spicer has to deal with.
I mean, that's just ignorant
every day.
I mean, it is just ignorant to dress like that, to look like that, and to sound like that when you're speaking to an official of this administration.
They have no respect, Lou. You know that. I mean, they made it very clear.
I remember a time in the Reagan administration when they didn't show respect. It lasted one briefing, and the rules were set. This is nonsense, and I have to tell you, it shouldn't be tolerated. I salute the Trump administration for putting up with them, but I don't really see the joy in it or the profit.